Charlton beat the Owls slightly unconvincingly. Now we face one of the toughest trips in the Championship. Good evening, everybody. Welcome into the 22nd episode of the From the Valley Floyd podcast on a Monday night. My name is Callum and I will be your host. I hope you're all doing well. It's a Monday. Sometimes we get quite a few people in on a Monday because there's nothing else to do, and sometimes people are working, and it ends up being pretty dead. Evening to Robert, who was early this evening, and hi to Tommy. I hope you're doing well. We'll spend sort of 15 minutes, I think, on both. Hi, Paul. Hi, Sam. I was busier today. But we'll spend some time on the game against Sheffield Wednesday, which I think, like most people, I thought was pretty unconvincing. But I'm interested to kind of hear people's thoughts and have a discussion about really what feels like the same issues. But anyway, and then we'll have a look ahead to the visit to my personal house of horrors, which is Portman Road tomorrow night. For anyone that's going, come say hello. But yeah, if you've got any opinions, chuck them in the chat. I'll try to respond to them. And then a bit of a silent precursor. I don't know if I'm allowed to announce it yet, but there will be other ways to hear more of my dulcet tones on the weekend after games. I will leave it at that. All right. So Sheffield Wednesday on Saturday in what was a 2-1 game. And I think Tommy sort of nailed it here when he says, I think we got complacent from half time. The first half, I thought we were very good. We could have scored 4 or 5 and would have deserved 4 or 5, I think. But yeah, that second half was bad. The subs, I don't think worked. And I think it sort of shows you how bad it was when we were bringing on 2 defenders with about 10 minutes to go. Imran Costello and Kane Ramsey, just to try and see it out. There were some real positives from the game, though. James Bree with another assist, although he did get torn apart by Harry Amas at times on that right side of our defence, left side of their attack. But a beautiful free kick. Really James Ward-Prowse-esque, which I think is what sort of Nathan was saying after the game. But I love the delivery. Reece Burke just comes and just knocks it in. It's easy as you like. The first goal, and I got into some trouble online. But to me, that first goal doesn't happen without Tyrese Campbell. I said it was 6. I had a few points in the oak after the game, so it probably wasn't 6. I think it was actually 5. So thanks, internet, got me. But he takes about 5 players out of the game. Takes the ball from Kerry. Lovely little ball from Kerry. Lovely weighted ball. Campbell drives, plays the ball back in. Kerry takes a bit of a snapshot. It's not a great shot, to be honest with you. And then basically, it rebounds quite badly off Horvath. I actually have a bit of sympathy for him. It bounces quite weirdly. He probably should gather it or push out for a corner, but that can happen. I don't think it's quite as bad an error on my end as I think people are making it out to be. He should really be doing better, but I don't think it's a catastrophic goalkeeping mistake or anything. And Kerry comes in, knocks it top bins. Pardon me. No, Tommy. I made a post about Campbell taking 6 players out. It was actually 4 or 5, and people were saying I was making the number up, which was a bit odd to me. But hey ho, that is the internet. But yeah, I don't really want to bring the internet into the pod. I don't think it's very interesting. Pedersen must have thought Chris would have come early when TC and Callum went off. Yeah, it was strange. It sort of makes the point that I think I've been making on the pod for the last however many months, which is Tyrese Campbell's so integral to the press, and I think actually Charlie Callum's becoming a bit like it as well. You lost when Miles Nolafe came on. You lost that sort of almost discipline I don't think either was particularly disciplined in their press. They provide other things. I think when you're trying to hold on to a game, there's worse things to have than a lad that's 6'6" standing at the corner flag. And then Oluwafe, obviously the red card, one of the most baffling refereeing moments that I've seen. I've seen quite a few of them over the last how many months. It joins the disallowed goal against Leicester for most baffling moments from the EFL officials this season. But I think that both Oluwafe and Liban, they're not the most disciplined pressers, right? I don't think it's what either of them have really done throughout their careers. So it's something that they're learning. And I think Tom next point, Carey is the best starter so far. I like Carey a lot. I think he's actually been very consistent. And again, I think that Nibs is just a different type of player. So again, when Nibs comes on, you have he had a clear goal scoring opportunity wiped away from him, but he's not the same type of presser. He's a willing presser, but he's not got, again, the same discipline. He's looking kind of, I think, to get on the edge of the box and have a shot. And I think sometimes he over harries and that leaves space in behind. And it's just the way that he plays the game. It's not necessarily criticism. It's just that if you're going to have him on, you have to realise that space sort of behind him is going to open up. I actually don't think, and as much as I say it all the time, I really like Connor Coventry, and I was still baffled that we got him for literally the cost of a future sell-on fee from West Ham. I don't think the midfield was excellent against Sheffield Wednesday, especially second half. I think we got dominated a little bit in there, and that can happen. It's the Championship, right? But you look at Ipswich's, and we'll come on to Ipswich in a little bit, and you do think that we'll probably have to freshen up in the middle a bit more quickly. And I think you might be, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, but you might be starting to see a couple of signs of fatigue in Doc a little bit. He's played pretty much 90 minutes every single game, and I think, when you're a really high energy midfielder, that can catch up to you a little bit. The only issue is I don't think that I want to be seeing Corey Anderson at Portman Road. So maybe Hull makes a little bit more sense to make a change, but I think we are going to have to do a little bit of freshening up. And I think Nathan Jones kind of insinuated that was what's going to happen during the post-match press conference. Tommy, yes, Callum, I meant that Campbell means more to the way this team's set up. Yeah, I say it all the time. There's two things he brings. One, he's actually a pretty disciplined presser. And two, he can pick the ball up in the half space and drive, and we just don't have that necessarily outside of it. And that's something that we could look at either in January or next summer, to bring in another player that can do that, especially if Campbell doesn't sign a contract extension. But I do think that it's difficult sometimes to, when you have four different forwards, you have five when Matty Gunn comes back, and they're all kind of different. They all sort of approach out of ball work differently. And you've got players, especially Miles, who just isn't that type of player, who I think you're asking a lot of to do that at his size. And I think actually a really good example, that was the Millwall game when we were down to 10, and it just isn't his game, right? So depending on how Nathan wants to set up, I think you are going to have moments kind of throughout the season where we may have some issues in that press structure when we do make those changes. And to me, whether I agree with it or not, and actually I would like to see more of Tanto, and I would like to see more of Miles, actually. And ultimately, when he comes back, I do want to see quite a lot of Godden, but I don't know if that's going to be at the expense of Tyrese, just because of that really particular tactical role that he plays. But I think this is a conversation we're all going to keep having for the next, if he gets 6 months, if he does sign a contract extension, it'll be for the next however many years. But I do think that, the shape that we're playing sort of really requires him to be there at least for the first hour to keep that pressing shape. And then, we seem to have conceded quite often when they come off as well, when he's come off the pitch, which sort of shows you the importance of him to that press. Let's move on to Charlie, who I actually agree with people when they say he had a pretty good game. It's one of those games where a striker doesn't score and actually has a really good game despite that. I have to warn you, I might have a cough, so I'm going to have to go and grab some water in a second. But I thought that he had a good game coming. I think he actually did some link up play pretty well. I think he played some balls around the corner. I mean, I don't have to tell everybody else about the 1 second. Apologies. I don't have to tell everybody about the it is the season for the colds, flus, and all the rest of it. But I don't have to tell you all. That the ball came across the box where he stood at the top of it and doesn't crash it. That he should be crashing it, because it's the same thing that I've said for weeks. And hopefully that is coming. And I think Nathan was saying that he knows that. But I actually thought outside of that opportunity, I thought he played pretty well, and he's actually unlucky, I think, not to score. The defender makes a really fantastic recovery challenge. That's not on Charlie. I think he actually held the ball up pretty well, and he got himself actually involved in keeping the ball when we were in possession. And I think that was a step forward. And I think actually some of the runs he was making were better, especially that run where he almost got the opportunity. So I think for Charlie it's coming. I think for TC even it's coming. I think it's just patience. I've seen a lot of complaining over the last couple of days, and I'm sort of sat here going, lads, we're 9th in the championship, and we're not just 9th on, we haven't been lucky. There's 9th on merit. We've got a manager who I just can't see getting relegated at this level. Like, some expectation management, as I always say. My main concern is I know once TC and Callum came off, the other team coming more in attacking. Yeah, Sam, that's the point, isn't it? Right, that's that pressing thing. We lose that sort of pressability. As I was saying, I would like to see Callum and get a full 90. I think the problem is that they're asked to do so much. That they do look knackered by the time they come off. Terence was very annoyed he came off against Preston, so I think he thought he still had some juice to burn. But you have to be a bit careful about making sure they stay fit. Charlie just needs time. Like Campbell's there pressing his votes about Nathan Jones wants to play. Exactly that. I mean, I think Nathan Jones has made it clear that he signs players for very specific physical attributes, right? And again, Nathan Jones has kind of made the point that he doesn't care if Kaminsky was our top scorer, right? Like, it doesn't matter to him. It's not what he's interested in. But in the same way, if he says you're a good striker, this has got this brought Adebayo and Cotton Morris through, right? And Danny Hilton scored a lot of goals for him, right, in EFL level. So a little bit of calming down. It makes me actually quite excited about Micah and Bick. I know he's having a really good time over at Colchester, but the way that Nathan talks about him leads me to believe that there's a very special prospect in there. This is a guy that knows talent when he sees it, and I think that that's a really important part of it. Paul, Wednesday's squad is looking increasingly threadbare, but they still have a number of wily championship player, and the team is fighting for his championship life. Not surprising they came back into it. Yeah, exactly that. Right? They're proud. I think Harry Mass has proven to be. I think he's going to be a fantastic player, isn't he? Which Man United desperately need a left wing back, so that's helpful. But yeah, I mean, I thought Jan Valery was really good, and I know it's a bit of a meme. On last week's preview show, but I actually thought he played really well in there. I think that you look at Johnston. Johnston's a good player. You look at the centre backs. There's a good. He also came off injured. That's a real worry for him. But again, these are good championship players, right? Like, I mean, Jamal Lowe's a good player. So I just think that there's never going to be a game in the championship that's quote unquote easy. There'll be games that you're better than the opponent, but you look at it and you go, hey, Blackburn were a 50-50 penalty decision away from probably being level. In a game that was quote unquote easy after that moment. But like, it's going to be hard, right? And we're going to have moments in any game where we're going to sort of struggle. And, I think it's really important for me to say, I know I don't see Stephen in here. I mean, he's maybe going to disagree with me. But I thought Sheffield Wednesday fans were an absolute credit. I messaged Ash actually after the game and said I thought your fans were absolute credit. I thought they were absolutely fantastic on Saturday. That's the best fans I've seen down the valley probably since Portsmouth. I thought they were absolutely exceptional. And I know that we have our issues with Sheffield Wednesday historically, and they should have been given that points deduction. But I really do hope that they get their ownership sort of sorted out. It felt the momentum changed almost immediately. Yeah, it did, and it was that loss of press, right, Paul? And Again, I think when that happens, it makes it difficult because you had Miles and Tanto just aren't disciplined pressers, so the space was opening. And the moment the nibs came on, it just looked really disjointed. Although, ironically, we were creating more going forward. It was just that everything at the back was sort of open, and I think that's why Nathan made the changes at bring a more defensive right back on, and then bring Ramsey on just to try and lock it down. He made one excellent tackle, Kane as well. I'd expect him to come into the team on Tuesday because I just don't see Reece Burt playing Saturday, Tuesday. Robert, how about 3 up front like the old days? The problem is that we're going to play back 5. What gets really awkward is if Amari Bell gets himself hurt, then we're in real trouble. And I've said this before. We sort of do go to a 3 up front though, because the wing back pushes. Normally it's Bree and almost becomes a right winger when we're attacking. It's just kind of a bit disjointed at times. It almost becomes a 3 back when we're on the ball. I think people would still call it a 5 back, but you could argue it's a 3. And it is quite attacking when we're on the ball. I think actually what sort of lets us down in that respect is we don't have a number 10 and this is not a criticism of Kerry, it's a very different thing. I think Sonny Kerry would do a good job in most championship squads, if I'm honest, and the fact he was free, I think, slightly mind-blowing. But if you Jack Redoney, for example, all of a sudden you're creating chances for fun, right? Because you can play balls sort of in the corners and down the sides and all the rest of it. We don't have that sort of player, and those sorts of players are really expensive, right? What did they turn down? Was it 15 million they turned down Coventry for him? Was it from Burnley? So, that sort of tells you it's frustrating though, because obviously we went from Wimbledon when they got relegated to a League One side in Huddersfield. I think once Godden's back, we'll help Charlie's with feed. Yeah. I mean, I think Gordon coming back helps everybody. I think that Gordon just scores goals, whatever level it kind of is. And I think that it's so important that that we do realise that the guy that scored 24 goals for us last year isn't available, and that that's going to cause problems in terms of that. I mean, I think the Nibs chance against Derby is the one that forced gives me. I think Matty Godden easily sweeps that into the corner. Although I'm not massively sure any of the 4 strikers that we have don't sweep that in. It's unfortunate because Nibs is normally a very good finisher. Would like to see Nibs apt to come to the squad tomorrow? No. This is going to sound so sort of defeatist because we're about to come on to Ipswich, and I'll tell you why, Sam. But that is a house of horrors for me. So I would very much set up as if we're playing 11 men behind the ball. Because I think you're going to have to keep that game as tight as you possibly can for as long as possible, because that is maybe the most difficult assignment in the Championship outside of Coventry away at the moment. Ipswich's home form is still sparkling, despite their issues away from home. Paul, I think this is in reference to the Sheffield Wednesday squad. Sprinkles some youthful talent. Agreed, Amass played well. Shame about only Weaver, but that's one of the drawbacks of bloody young players too early. Yeah, we would know that, right, Paul? The young kids that have come in. I still think, actually, to be 100% fair, I think Lucas Ness, probably that knee injury may have cost him some of his development. Now he doesn't really play at Notts County from the last that I've sort of seen, which is disappointing. But, this is why, again, and as I said it from the start of the season, I wanted Zach Mitchell to go on loan, right? And I did. He's injured and recovering and all the rest of it, but I think he needs sort of seasoning, and bringing him in too early means that, people sort of overcompensate, and that can lead to injuries when you're that sort of age. I think that today Sheffield Wednesday are miles better than Blackburn and Watford. Yeah, Watford have changed managers now. Yeah, I mean, I think it's that siege mentality, isn't it? Right? That I think Pedersen's sort of built in. I think Pedersen's a good coach. I think we've seen that. And I think that I just can't with that squad seeing Sheffield, even if they get new owners in. That squad's just the damage that's been done. That squad's not going to stay up, I don't think, past March. I think probably by the time we go to Hillsborough in April, they'll probably be down. Someone will clip that and they'll finish above us now. But that squad just isn't there. Even if you took their own fans, they go, we're trying really hard. But there comes a point when you're not winning games, you're not getting points, and that togetherness kind of starts to fray a bit. And that's when you can kind of enter a bit of a death spiral. Yeah, God is back after next international break another month or so. Yeah, that's what I heard. I read that on X, but I've also sort of heard that through the grapevine a little bit. Yeah, that it should be afterwards. He may make a bench right before the break, because this break is actually, because this one I think 6 weeks long, isn't it? It's a longer, October to November period's actually longer. So it wouldn't shock me potentially to see him on a bench at something like a Stoke. But we'll have to wait and see, depending on how the rest of the squad works out. What about Apter as an option for breakaways? Definitely second half. Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to hear people's opinions on this, and this is before we go to Ipswich, and I'll use this as the transition. Rob Apter. The problem that he's got is that James Spears decided to become Roberto Carlos of the Championship, right? He's got 5 goal involvements in 4 games from right back, right? Like, that's the problem for Rob Apter at the moment. I know there are well-watched commentators who would start Apter every week, and I don't blame them, right? I think Rob Apter's a really quality player. I think if I was his agent or his friend or his manager, I would sort of go to him. Breeze purple patch like this, it's not going to last. It can't last this long at right back from a right back, right? So he will get an opportunity, I'm almost certain. But I think what's happened is that he was dropped because of Kane Ramsey getting himself sent off, so they needed the defensive solidity, and James Brigg going forward is ran himself almost undroppable, and when he's fit, Reece Burke's almost undroppable at the moment. I thought Reece Burke was absolutely sensational on Saturday as well. And they've got the pre-existing relationship with Amari Bell. Right, you're not going to drop Lloyd Jones, and Macaulay Gillespie's left-footed, so that's what's happened with Apter. I don't think it's any sort of, Nathan Jones still says he's a great player and all the rest of it, although it was funny because he listed off all the players that haven't played and forgot the one player he didn't mention from the window was Rob. But, I think with Rob, it's just, the time will come. He's young anyway, right? He's not an old player. He's 21, isn't he? I think it's just, it's such a great first month. He got unlucky, I think, but you just can't drop James Bree at the moment, and that's kind of the way it is. And maybe if Ramsey gets himself back into that first choice right centre-back role, maybe then there's an argument you need Apter for a bit more going forward. I saw someone saying you could try Apter in the Campbell role. I think that wouldn't work. He's just too small. The thing about TC is that he's not strong. He's not massively strong, but he's actually quite big for a winger, quote unquote. Apter just isn't that, just by virtue of his height. I think most Championship centre backs will just eat him alive. Yeah, what Tommy's saying, he could Apter be the Campbell. I just not with his height. I don't see it. How many 5'5" or 5'6" at maximum? I was chatting to someone. They were saying like the 5'5" may be overstating. He might be the same size as my mum at about 5'3". So he's not a big lad. I think that's a bit of a problem. Or Nathan Jones bring Hernandez on at some stage. I don't know if anyone's seen the thing about Hernandez liking lots of Norwich fans' posts about if he gets on the pitch tomorrow. He absolutely hates Ipswich Town. And I don't know if Nathan Jones is going to risk him with Marcelo Nunez on the other side. If that had happened and someone had gone from us to Millwall in that way, I also would have been absolutely fuming. So I understand it. I don't think Nathan Jones will take that risk. And Hernandez, I wonder, has he been brought in as a backup left wing back if Bell gets injured? Is that too attacking? I'm not massively sure. That's one of the best. Oh, Paul, how you doing? See you tomorrow for a beer, my man. That's one of the best free kicks I've seen from Bree. Yeah. I mean, it was just on his head. I mean, all he had to do was slightly stoop and just knock it in. It's awful defending, by the way. It's dreadful marking, and I don't know who it was. Yeah, Campbell changed for Apter. Yeah, I'm still not. I'm not massively sure. I understand the opinion. I see why people say it. I'm just not massively sure that it works, Tommy. Reacquitted himself well in the Prem. Will be a different position at the moment. He's more competent player than that. But yeah, he is. He is, Paul. I think you're absolutely right, and I think that's why it's. I think that's why he is. He's playing right, but part of it, as I say, is just he came in because we needed someone to more defensive to play in that right back role next to Burke, because Burke and Ramsey, they're just Burke and Apter, I think there'd just be too much space. Burke cannot cover that amount of space, and you'd just be asking for a torn hamstring if you had him do it. So he went, okay, I'll get Bree in, who's going to be a little bit closer to him, and then James Bree has turned into the second coming of Roberto Carlos, which means that Rob Apter, whatever he does at the moment, he can't get in because you can't drop a right back that's assisting every week. Watch Hernandez's video if you haven't seen it. Yes, everybody, please do go and watch it. It's like one of the funniest things. Also, the fact that both of them If you don't know about Bruno Hernandez's obsession with Argos, go and look it up. It's like genuinely funny, especially when you realise there is literally an Argos. What 10-minute walk from the Valley in the big Sainsbury's. Hodnik cannot play left wing back. Yeah, he can't. I don't think they tried him there once or twice. I just don't know where he's going to play. Otherwise, again, I think he probably has the same problem playing up front. Maybe Nathan wants it to be, so maybe he can transition to a 4 at times, just give himself the option. We'll have to see. We have a lot of right backs and no left backs, and it sounds like we're signing another right back on a free. So we'll have to wait and see with the squad building. Right, Ipswich. Oh boy, this is my personal house of horrors. I am one of the people that has been at the last 2 games, which is 10-0 in aggregate to Ipswich. The one plus is it's right next to the station, so I've been able to get home straight away afterwards and try not to think about it. Although once I got stuck in a rail replacement bus coming back from Ipswich. The pubs are pretty decent. That's another plus. But this is one of the most difficult assignments in the Championship is Ipswich away, and especially Ipswich Road on Tuesday night where we're not going to sell out that away end. It's a 98% full ground, isn't it, or something? They basically sell it out every week, especially after their Premier League year. The manager's one of the best in the division. The squad's one of the best in the division. This is a team that spent 25 million on an 18-year-old winger that no one's ever heard of outside of FIFA players, because he's actually quite good on FIFA. An 18-year-old. But like, this is a really difficult game. Jacob Greaves is a fantastic centre-back at this level, right? Palmer's a great goalkeeper at this level. I mean, Philogene shouldn't be at this level, right? Jack Clark scores goals every time he comes off the bench, right? They've got some issues at striker, and the midfield maybe hasn't quite worked all the time. I'm really interested to see if it is Clark that starts for them, because I think that maybe a matchup Coventry can get the better of. But they're complete polar opposites. Clark's a really sort of bruising DM, and Coventry's more of obviously as a tempo sort of defensive midfielder, more of a sweeping DM. So I think it's going to be a really interesting. Matchup probably in midfield. You know, 2 excellent fullbacks. Leif Davis going forward. I mean, Leif Davis can't defend, which might be the one plus, as you can. You know, you can maybe take advantage there, and they're not the greatest, I don't think, at defending set pieces either. And they haven't started like a house on fire, Ipswich, but you know, there's often a hangover coming down, and I still expect them to be definitely challenging for the automatic spot, if not the league title. Though to me personally, I think Coventry are absolutely the favourites at the moment. Hairband, all rest of the Clark. Yeah, and also when he starts, he doesn't have the same impact. But when he comes off the bench, he just seems to score every game. It's absolutely bizarre. But when you can bring a player of Jack Clark's quality off your bench, right? Like, it's madness to have that level in the Championship. So I don't think they were particularly great against Middlesbrough, and they probably should have scored 3. So this is going to be really, really difficult. Yeah, Sam's saying it's a free hit. Yeah. Take a draw, no question. If you offer me a draw right now, I wouldn't just snap your hand off. I'd rip your hand off and walk home. I am at home. But you know what I mean? This is a really, really difficult assignment. Right? This is the sort of game that you look on the schedule when it comes out and you go, that's a loss. Right? Even the most optimistic of person, I think, must think this is one of the hardest games of the season, right? You probably look at this, you probably before the season will look at St. Mary's, although at the moment that's not quite looking like that, and that will be fun because we get to protect Nathan Jones back there. You know, you may have looked at the Coventry, you know, weirdly the Bet365 looks like which I think is now the Stoke City Stadium, isn't it? Whatever the heck it is in Stoke, that looks difficult now. But, you know, this is going to be a real challenge, right? And this is the sort of game where it's like, this always worries me with online bases, right? Because I'm like, we'll lose this and people will lose their heads because we'll drop about five places if we do. But for me, I think Nathan Jones, by playing Reece Burke on Saturday, sort of signified what he's thinking, right? Because I think that in games where you're going to have to sit 11 men behind the ball, well, not that Reece Burke can't do that. I think Reece Burke's a fantastic centre back, but we can only use him 2 out of every 3. You know, this is a game for Ramsey to come back in, but some of the balls that Ramsey let over his head against Derby, if you let Ipswich through, you know, if you let Philogene have the chance that what's the winger for Derby's name? Have I forgotten? I can see his face. The former Liverpool lad, Bobby Clark. There we go, isn't it? It's only Clark's today. But if you let him have that shot, right? Now, the committee's not going to save it. Like any sort of switch off in this game, there will be a goal, right? And that's the challenge here. This is the probably the toughest challenge in the Championship outside of Coventry away. Right, we got them both within a month. We got Stoke in the same month. In that same sort of 4 to 5 week period. So there's some really difficult games coming up, right? Those home games at the Valley really are important. When you're looking forward and you're kind of going, the only game away from home that you're going, can we nick it is probably Wrexham. And anything else, I think getting anything on the draw, any of the other places that we're going to, I think is a bonus. And I don't mean that to sound defeatist. I just mean it to be, this is the Championship, right? That's why the winning at Sheffield Wednesday was so important. It doesn't matter how it happened. I was comparing it to Northampton at home last year, which almost nobody will remember and nobody cares about, right? But we won the game and got the 3 points. And that's what the Sheffield Wednesday game was for me. It was just win it. Because what follows it is 2 really difficult trips. You've got, so one of the toughest challenges in the Championship. And then one of the and then we go to one of the furthest trips in the Championship, and Hull is not an easy place to go, and they're playing pretty well. Not like Burnley has decided to be R9 reincarnated. So, can't believe I watched him at Las Palmas about 6 months ago. That's a weird story. But like we have to kind of look at it, I think, in a rational way and go, and maybe other people don't, but for me, this is the one game I looked at and went, yeah, that's a loss. Where's Portman Road, right? And also, our record at Portman Road is particularly poor over the years as well. And I want to be on these pods. I want to be sort of happy and whatever, but and positive. But I think this may be a game where we get a little bit of a dose of reality in the Championship. But as I say, if there's one man that likes to end streaks, it's Nathan Jones, and I'm sure he'll look at it and go, we can snatch this 1-0. And they didn't massively outplay us in the preseason friendly suppose. I wasn't in Colchester because who on earth puts a preseason friendly on a Tuesday night in Colchester? But, I don't think that I don't think it's impossible that we go there and get something, but I think that a draw is a lot more likely than 3. The sports aren't happy so far. If we can score early, it might be a happy place. But yeah, I was at the last 2 matches. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the supporters aren't happy because they're sat in 12th or whatever it is. They're battling for the 12th place trophy. As it is, if anyone's on the EFL Championship Reddit, please do. It's absolutely hilarious. But they're not happy, but it's more their away form. It's from at home, they're still a juggernaut, right? And I still think they will fix the away form, and probably by the time we play them at home, they'll be on a 5-game away winning streak or something. But, we should expect our boys to want the challenge. Yeah, they should do. And Nathan said that we've earned this. Sam agreeing with me, although you never know the squad named Nathan Jones. You don't, right? If there's one manager that can do it with a squad like ours, that's the magic. He'll be telling them that. He'll be telling everybody, including the probably not using me by name, but all the people that are talking about it are saying you're going to lose, right? Go out there and prove them wrong. And I hope we do. If we win it, I'll be absolutely delighted on Wednesday night when I hop back on there. But it's a really difficult game, right? It's going to be a really difficult challenge, and I think that we just have to be, brace ourselves for lots of periods of just sitting and defending. Although they're not the most cutthroat team, Ipswich. They don't routinely. I know they did against Sheffield United under Ruben Sellers, but they don't routinely put 4 or 5 past people in the way that they did the years that they were in League One and absolutely destroyed us twice. One of the 4 teams to have a better home record than us this season. Yeah, there you go, Paul. There's your, that sums it up. And our home record is very good, although it should be 3 points better, 2 extra points against Millwall and 1 extra point against Leicester. Hardest game so far with Miles, but hey, that's what we wanted. Hey, this is the Championship, right? This is why you want to do it. You want, and I get it. We've played them before. We played them in League One, and it's a bit of a, but this is why you want to be in the Championship. These are the big games, right? It's going to be a massive crowd. There's going to be, easily 30,000 in there tomorrow night. I think that's what Portman Road holds. Let me check that before I... Portman Road. What's the capacity of Portman Road? 29,673. Yeah, so there's easily going to be upwards of 30,000 people there. So just, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. And their fans are right next to you. And, it's difficult. Well, I don't know what Nathan's record actually is at Portman Road. I think actually he missed Ipswich quite a lot when he was managing Luton, because I think they were in different divisions. That was when Ipswich were on a bit of a downturn and was sort of stuck in League One for a couple of seasons there. We're playing tomorrow, as you notice, Wednesday night a few times. Did I say Wednesday night, Sam? I apologise. I meant Tuesday night. I mean, I literally got the ticket here. I know that I'm going tomorrow night. I've got the train booked. I was chatting to Paul about going up there and having a beer. So I do know that I'm going up there tomorrow. But one of the things, this is going to be the last point, I think, but before I go, if anyone's got any score predictions, stick them in there. Why not? It's quite fun. I've got this ticket, right? I pay 38 quid for it, right? Which is just bonkers for a Championship game. It says restricted pitch view on it. I pay 38 quid in the time I've got a restricted view. I won't, because the away end's not sold out, so I should be all right to find a different space to stand. But how baffling is that? Ipswich are charging me double for a restricted view what Derby charged me to be 5 rows behind the goal on the corner with a perfect view of the pitch. Just the £25 price cap can't come soon enough. In the EFL, it's absolutely bananas. Tom, we need the fan base not to go mad if the result doesn't go for us. That's all. Yeah, it is. I mean, Paul Davenport was a joke. It is an absolute mick take. But yeah, Tommy, I think that I mean, people will. If we lose it 2-0 and the strikers don't score, it will be change the strikers, change this, change that. I think we just need to be a little bit, and I've said this on this pod so many times. We just need to have a little bit of expectation management. We've done this before we started. Also, don't forget QPR charged £31 per view of one penalty area. This is true. There are some genuine horror stories. People going draw a hope 1-1, scrappy 1-1. Let's hope so. I'd take a very boring 0-0, but I just don't see us getting a clean sheet away at Portman Road. If I'm honest with you all. But yeah, I mean, I just think a bit of expectation management. We've often started okay and well in the Championship, and it's kind of fallen apart. I think this is a little bit different. I think that, as much as I love Bo, as much as I love Chris Powley, they're not they don't have the same pedigree, and part of that is because they weren't backed. By the way, I don't think it's anything really to do with them. I think they both were excellent managers, but this manager has genuine pedigree at this level, and I think that that's probably the difference for me. But in the same way as he said, right, you've got to take game by game. This is about as difficult a trip as we're going to face all season. If I come back on here and we've lost 3-0 tomorrow, I'm not going to be stunned. Right, I really hope I can see us score a goal at Portman. That'd be really nice. I've heard that darn goal song so many times going down there, and that 6-0 one of the very few games I've left early. It was a incredibly embarrassing afternoon, and Dean Holden's really red face at the end of it, I think, sort of showed it. He was both raging and just genuinely embarrassed, but he got completely outcoached by Kieran McKenna, and I think that that's it's unfortunate. Well, Ipswich are always expensive by comparison. Yeah, I mean, I know they're expensive, but that's madness. 38 quid for a ticket that they're saying is going to have a restricted view. Just football, the modern game. The game's gone, isn't it, really? Although, as I say, if you haven't seen it, just before we go, please do yourself a favour and look up Doncaster's tweet about the face painting being cancelled. Honestly, one of the funniest comment sections I've ever seen, and X is incredibly toxic. So if there's something very funny, it's well worth viewing. Great, game's gone. Right. We as fans just support the team and enjoy the game regardless of the result. I've seen a few fans go mad. Some have gone mad. I don't think it's necessary. We're sat in 9th in the second tier. As I posted yesterday, 4 years ago, we lost to Accrington Stanley at home, 3-2. So that shows you where we are. One last point as well, which is nice to see. Gabriel Brenner will be at the game. He was at the game on Saturday and was in the museum a few weeks ago. It's good to see him over. Good to see him enjoying the game. I know he's a big football fan anyway. Obviously, young Houston Dynamo and an MLS franchise, but it's good to see him over. It's good to see them really getting involved. And I think the club is very much on the up on both the men and women's side. All right, probably this week, next week, you may hear some news. You'll be able to hear some to me more often about my views and tell me I'm wrong more often. I will be part of I'll still be here doing this. I love doing this. Since I've started it, people have shown me nothing but support, and I really, really appreciate it, especially those of you logged on at 7:30 on a Monday night. And some of you are my friends. Others are honorary friends. But thank you so much for being here. I'll probably have some news later in the week. Maybe not the next podcast, maybe the whole review. But if you're in Ipswich tomorrow, come say hello. If not, if you're in Hull, I'll be around. But yeah, we'll have some podcast related news and some other news as the days go by. Keep safe, everybody. Safe travels to anyone traveling tomorrow. Enjoy the game. Come on, boys. And they're going to need us. It's going to be a really tough one, especially if you sat behind you. If you need to, sit behind your sofa. But here's the hoping. Right, everyone, I'll see you all Wednesday, 6:30. We'll be back for a review of the game and a look ahead to Hull. I don't know if I'm going to have a Hull fan. I'm going to see if I can get one of the Tuesday nights. Really mess with that because everybody's doing multiple podcasts in a week and it all gets a bit crazy. As Tommy says, up the attic. And I'll see you all on Wednesday. Thank you. Bye.